guys, what's going on? It is Wednesday, December 19th. Last time I did a video, I talked about Cardano. I did a review on Cardano and everything that they were doing and developing in 2018, moving into 2019. So today I want to do a review on Dash and what the Dash core group is doing. How are they weathering this bear market cycle that we've been going through, and what can we expect from them going into 2019, and is it a good project? There's a lot of people that ask me that a lot. I don't think they've really done a whole lot of updates other than trying to put out that they've done some integrations in Venezuela and then they're still working on some projects, but I haven't heard a lot from Dash in terms of how they're handling this market in detail. But I have found some stuff doing some research, and I want to share that with you guys today. And I want to break down who they are, what they do, and where they're going, and how they're going to be sustainable going through this bear market cycle, and will they be a good project long term. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So what is Dash in a nutshell? Basically, Dash is short for digital cash. That's supposed to be instant, private, and secure. They are built on an open source platform, blockchain technology, and they are self-governing and self-funding. Self-governing in the sense that they are ran by the master nodes on their network, and self-funding in the sense that they are ran on via a treasury system. And I'll get into that as well. So let's just talk about the current state of the project right now. Based on what they've put out. So Dash's unique proposal system funding, or with Dash's unique proposal funding system, funding trickles out into a monthly budget provided by the network, and this limits the monthly run rate that they can replenish and therefore caps their long-term spending. And the Dash core group has expressed their intention to draw no more than 60% of the available budget, except in extreme circumstances. So basically, they have a long-term spending cap and a monthly budget in place so that they don't run out of money, so that the project can continue developing, and so that they can retain developers and people in the project that are important for development of their products, which I'll talk about in a few minutes as well. They also put out that when Dash peaked in December of 2017, so a year ago, the Dash core group, DCG, didn't expand on the team in the line of the market exuberance. Without that restrained approach, they probably wouldn't have withstood the 94% drop that's occurred this year in Dash alone and in the market. So this shows that Dash has had some maturity and good leadership back in 2017 and throughout 2018 and going into 2019 in terms of how they spend their money and how they are approaching development. So the fact that they didn't try to expand really quickly and try and overdevelop and overly grow in 2017 shows that they've shown some restraint and that they're very methodical about how they're going to develop the Dash blockchain protocol. And that's a good sign for people that are investing in Dash, that like to use Dash, that want to integrate it as a merchant or in big business, institutions, government in the future. Dash is positioned to do pretty well. But so why is Dash positioned to do very well? And this comes back to their treasury system and their master node network. And this forms their legal structure and their funding structure. So they put out some more information on this. So I'm just going to go ahead and read that to you, and then I'll break it down and explain it. But they said that in recent months, Dash core group DCG has built up a significant buffer against currency risk. This is feasible now that the Dash DAO irrevocable trust is established and DCG is owned by the trust. In essence, DCG is now a safe entity in which the network can entrust significant funds for future use. DCG converts nearly all funds to USD upon receipt, so subsequent price declines do not affect their balance sheet. So basically what they did, the Dash core group, which is the main developing group for the Dash protocol, it's now owned by this trust that I believe is in New Zealand. And I believe the beneficiaries of that trust are the master nodes themselves. So when when someone proposes a change or a development change, or they want to do something on the Dash network or change something on the Dash network, the master nodes have to vote on it. And if they get enough votes for it, and then that submission goes to directing the trust, which directs DCG. So in a sense, Dash is the world's first operating decentralized autonomous organization, the world's first DAO. And you could say that Ethereum's DAO was the first one that collapsed way back in 2016. But this is proven so far to work really well. And while it's not really a organization in the sense that it's governed by the master nodes, it's a DAO in the sense that it is governed in a decentralized way. And I think there will be a lot of interesting legal implications in the future if Dash ever gets in trouble. And I think it'll really start evolving trust laws, it'll start evolving tax laws, and really drag the idea of blockchain and crypto into the legal world even more than it is now. But the fact that they operate Dash with a trust that controls DCG shows that they are thinking way ahead, and they are thinking very intelligently about how they want to develop Dash and maintain that sustainability. They've also announced that the funds convert directly to USD. So when Dash is funded, or when they use funds, they don't need to worry about necessarily Dash going up or down in a very volatile manner, because they convert everything to US dollars. So they do have some sustainability in terms of what they're converting. And they've also announced that a lot of employees and people that work for DCG have taken on voluntary work without compensation or with a lower compensation. So that shows that a lot of people that work for Dash, that work for DCG, are very passionate about the project, and that's always a good sign as well. That allows them to voluntarily scale back and save even more money and be even more sustainable. It's an interesting contrast to what Cardano was doing, which I talked about last time I did a video, because Cardano is already pre-funded until 2020, and by then they should have a treasury system be fully sustainable, while Dash has got kind of a treasury system in place already. They're not necessarily pre-funded in the sense that it's still a possibility that they could lose enough funding to slow down development. But they do have another workaround through their trust and through controlling funds with the master nodes and everything. So they're taking an interesting step forward, but just in different directions. So it's really cool to see that. But let's kind of talk about some of the products they've been trying to put out and develop that we might see in 2019, or that we kind of have seen to crop up. One of them is Dash Evolution, which is, Evolution's mission is to make digital cash easy to use and access for all users, even those who aren't technologically savvy. So anybody will be able to set up an account on the blockchain, add contacts, and pay them by name. Purchases from websites or mobile apps will be simple, requiring only a single click. So this is kind of similar to what Ripple's been kind of pushing for with their with sending money internationally and with remittance. And this is similar to what Ethereum's been pushing for quite a while in terms of human-friendly addresses. I know Cardano's doing the same thing, but they want to make it universal so anyone can use it. They want you to be able to save your contacts, and they want human-friendly addresses. So having something that's .dash or whatever it may be, or with Ethereum .eth. So you could say, okay, well, I want to attach my address, my Dash address to BlockHash.dash or whatever it ends up being. But that really simplifies it and makes it easy for people to do business and do commerce, and to have more faith that they're not going to screw up a transaction, because now you rely on your computer or your smartphone to copy and paste an address, and you're hoping that you don't make a mistake. And if you have to type it in manually, is very, very risky, especially if you're using or transacting with a lot of money. So these human-friendly addresses are going to be a big deal, and it's going to be very popular. And with Ethereum, you've already seen people start a bidding war for certain .ether addresses. And I think as other blockchains start developing this, you'll see that crop up as well. And it'll be very similar to the .com boom, and it'll be very similar to what happened with websites, and how even today those websites are worth thousands, sometimes millions of dollars alone, just because of brand. So that'll be another investment avenue for a lot of people, and it'll be very helpful for commerce. They also want to get into one-click transactions. They've also stated that Dash wants to be able to have you click one button, complete a transaction, and have it confirmed in seconds. Very similar to what Ripple's doing, except I don't think anyone's been able to surpass Ripple just yet. But it looks like Dash is also making that push. I don't know if Dash is going to be focused on the big institutions, but they seem to be focused on commerce and a lot of fast food chains, a lot of franchise businesses, small businesses. But that's important too, and they'll definitely find a niche there, and they started to actually in Venezuela, and we'll talk about that. But first I want to mention the masternodes. I'm not going to get into detail because I really don't want to get into detail on the masternodes. I think you guys know enough about it. But basically masternodes are showing Dash's growth over the last few years. So despite the fact that Dash has been up and down in price, and despite the fact that even this year Dash is tremendously down in price, from being way over $1,000 to now being quite a bit under $100. If you look at the chart, let's see if I can point to it. So it's been starting to plateau a little bit and flatten out, which is fine, but it's still growing at a pretty steady rate. If you look at the beginning of 2018, where Dash really peaked, or even in, I'm sorry, 2018 is over here. The beginning of 2018, you can see a lot of growth throughout 2018 in terms of the masternodes and the actual network, despite Dash losing quite a bit of value. And even from mid-2018 to around now, Dash has still grown tremendously in terms of their masternode. So what does this tell us? I don't think there's any direct correlation, but the fact that even though the price has been going down, development has been steady, masternodes have been going online and have been staying online, and that is very good in terms of growth for the network. And you saw a lot of growth between 2015 and 2016, and it's been pretty steady ever since mid-2016 until now, and there's no sign of it necessarily slowing down dramatically. So I think the masternodes are going to continue coming online. Maybe that has to do with the reward system and profitability and things like that. I'm not an expert on their masternodes, but I do know that this is a good chart to look at if you want to see how they're developing and where they're going. But back to the topic of Venezuela, which I was kind of getting into. Why isn't crypto thriving in Venezuela, but why is it so heavily promoted? I think we know why it's so heavily promoted. They're trying to avoid sanctions. They're trying to subvert the fact that they're going through a currency crisis. But the answer to why crypto isn't necessarily thriving in Venezuela is the lack of education. And I've been saying this for a long time, and it's the same issue that's in the US, that's in Latin America, that's in Europe, that's in Asia. Not enough people know how to use crypto. Not enough people know how to build on the blockchain or what to do with it in the first place in their industry, despite the fact that you can use the blockchain in any industry. So it's education. And if you go online, you see it all the time. There's tons of merchants that are being set up in Venezuela to accept Dash, among other cryptocurrencies as well. But the people have not fully adapted to crypto there yet. They're still going through chaos. There's no organized educational structure that's really teaching people how to transact. You can set up as many merchants as you want, but if, as a customer, if I don't know how to use it, and if it's not simple enough for me, I'm not going to use it. So that's why you see financial products all the time that are put out by banks and other institutions, but they're not as mainstream as you'd think. They're not world changing. It's a lack of education, and even with crypto, it's really a lack of education because it's so brand new and it's so revolutionary in a sense in financial technology. But fast food chains, franchises like KFC, Subway, Papa John's, and plenty of others have been popping up like crazy to accept Dash as merchants in Venezuela. So there's no shortage of people accepting it in Venezuela. There's just a shortage of people understanding how to use it and transact with it, and frankly to buy it. I mean, if you're Venezuelan Bolivar, I believe, is not worth anything. I mean, that doesn't really help you in terms of buying crypto to use. So I mean, there's some issues with getting people crypto and figuring out how to improve their lifestyle with it when their currency is already in a crisis. And let's just look at a couple other places, for example, like Turkey and Iran have been going through issues and sanctions and currency manipulation issues, but crypto existed there before that happened, and there wasn't necessarily a major push regardless. But when their currencies have been in flux, a lot of people have been running to Bitcoin, running to other blockchain projects to help them get around that problem, even more so than gold. I mean, in the past, people would run to gold because it's a safe haven and to protect their value, but Bitcoin has been shown to be much more versatile in terms of doing that, and you see a lot of people nowadays running to Bitcoin because it gives them more optionality if they want to leave the country, or if they want to take their value somewhere else, or they want to send it to their struggling family members. And this is also happening in Buenos Aires in Argentina. I was down there not too recently, and Uber drivers are accepting Bitcoin. There's thousands of Bitcoin ATMs that are going in. Everyone that I know in the tech industry down there is very interested in what Bitcoin can do. They're very curious about it. There's still a huge lack of education down there in terms of what you can do with crypto and blockchain, but the curiosity is there. People want to learn, but there's no one putting out the education to teach them. And there's also a lot of stuff in terms of ATMs and things like that going into Argentina. Pundi's going into Argentina. I'm sure Dash will get there eventually as well. So despite the fact that, Dash is really making a push to be in merchants in places like Venezuela, and despite the fact that there's a lot of currency crises happening all over the world, such as in Buenos Aires, Turkey, Iran, Venezuela, North Korea, you name it, crypto is finding a footing there, and the curiosity is at all-time highs, at least in my opinion, and what I've actually seen on the ground, especially in Buenos Aires and in other countries in Latin America like Colombia and Panama. But the education's not there. People don't understand how to use it every single day yet. But that's what's going on in Venezuela in terms of Dash and with other crypto stuff. But Alt36 is also interesting. This is a marijuana merchant product that has partnered up with a company called Node 40, which does crypto tax compliance stuff, and they're integrating with Dash, and this could be a big opportunity for Dash to make a name for itself in the US, especially with a marijuana industry that's on the verge of breaking out. And if we get federal legalization, which has got to happen at some point in the near future, then that can be an even bigger catalyst for products like Alt36, which Dash is a part of, and for other blockchain projects as well. But Alt36 has been really interesting. They've been taking an interesting approach into how they're going to merge blockchain and marijuana, which I think are two industries that are highly under speculation and that will benefit each other greatly. So this is a product that is including Dash that I think you guys should keep an eye on in the future, and you'll probably see a lot more of, and they're pretty good at branding too. So last slide before I finish up on Dash and my review of Dash, I want to talk about the performance of Dash. over the last 2, 3, 4 years in the medium term range. And I really hope people like Peter Schiff are watching this video right now, or at least this portion of the video, because there's something you gotta understand. When you're preaching gold as a really good investment, I'm sure it is, and it's something that long term that has held value and has been shown to withstand currency manipulation and government collapses and economic downturns. And a lot of that predates millennials and people like me that have not really experienced that fully. And people like me, millennials, centennials, were growing up with alternatives to gold like Bitcoin. And as the older generation continues to grow older, and as millennials continue to grow up and centennials come into the economy more mature, I think you're going to see a big change in where we're putting our value. And I talked a little bit about that on the Venezuelan slide and how that's happening in Turkey, Iran, Buenos Aires, and all over the world when there's a crisis. People are not going to gold as much, they're going to Bitcoin. Regardless of what you think about Bitcoin, that's the psyche of young people right now. And a lot of these countries have a lot of young people, and they need to have flexibility with their money. So gold is evolving, and there's going to be potential to put gold on the blockchain as well, and to have a crypto project that's legitimate and that's legitimately backed by gold or other precious metals or other commodities. But over the last 2 years, Dash is up 500%. Over the last 2 years, gold is up 8%. Over the last 3 years, Dash is up almost 2,000%, and gold is only up 17%. If you go a little bit farther out, over the last 4 years, Dash is up 3,400+%, and gold is only up 5%. If you bought gold 4 years ago versus if you bought Dash 4 years ago, you would have made a lot more money with Dash. And you would have done pretty good. I mean, despite the fact that Dash, yes, has come down to a little over 68 right now. I'm not sure what the price is today, but it's been as low as $1.92, and it's been lower than that in the past. This is just in the last 4 years. And if you want to be fair, let's go long term. Let's look at gold over the last 10 years. Bitcoin was born 10 years ago, and it was on the market 9 years ago. What has Bitcoin done since then? Bitcoin has gone from pennies to being as high as $20,000 to sitting around a couple grand right now. And what has gold done in that time? 10 years ago, gold was around the same price. It wasn't that much higher. In fact, it's actually lost value 10 years ago compared to now. So if you put everything in perspective, and again, Peter Schiff, I hope you're watching this, because I see you post all the time on Twitter and on social media, and there's bash crypto and Bitcoin all the time, and I just don't see why. I understand that, yeah, Bitcoin is a project that very well could fail. There's a lot of crypto projects that very well could fail, but you're overlooking the fact that people are running to this newer technology because it offers optionality in terms of what we want to do with our money and our value. And I guarantee you, my generation and the generation after mine is not going to be buying gold as much as they are Bitcoin or another crypto that's more mainstream and more stable in the future. And technology continues to develop, so saying that this is the end of Bitcoin or the end of crypto is very, very naive for someone who's been in the market for as long as anyone else, and that knows gold is better, as good as anyone else. So I think you need to keep that, everyone needs to keep that in perspective with this technology. Yeah, Bitcoin could fail. Sure, Dash could fail, but it hasn't yet. And I don't see a path to it failing, but the technology's not going to fail. And this is psychologically what's happening in the market. This is what, hopefully I'm pointing it in the right direction, this is what people my age and in my generation are putting their money in, and they're trusting to protect their value. I trust math more than I do a piece of metal that came out of the ground. That's the future, and we're moving into a digital age, so that needs to be kept in mind. Anyways, that was the last slide for Dash. I won't go on about that last rant too much. But go ahead, and if you like this video, this review on Dash, please follow and subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and or Steam it. And if you have any questions or you want me to talk about Dash more in the future, or you have something else you'd like me to talk about, or you have something you'd like me to expand on, please leave a comment below. Feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this, and give me as much feedback as possible so I can continue improving this and giving you guys the best content that I can. Again, thank you guys, and I will see you guys all for the next video in a few weeks. Thank you guys. See you soon.